Let's not get caught. What are you talking about? Let's keep going. What do you mean? Go. You sure? Yeah. Hey!
Thelma and Louise off the cliff at 110 miles per hour. John Boehner at the wheel. Paul Ryan pushing down on the accelerator. Paul Ryan said after the vote last night, hey, the reason I voted for it is I like it. If you like something, you vote for it. So Paul Ryan said, hey, I like it. $620 billion tax increase, no spending cuts, $3.9 trillion increase in the federal deficit, and I like it just fine. That's why I voted for it. So, I mean, this is just a remarkable thing to me, ladies and gentlemen. This is the utter collapse of any kind of moral or principled leadership on the part of the Republican Party. And don't forget, John Boehner right now, he's the face of the Republican Party. If you ask anybody who would you consider to be the leader of the Republican Party, who else would it be but Boehner? I mean, nobody's seen Romney in months. He's flat out disappeared. I mean, he pops up at Disney World every once in a while, but he's gone to ground. You see him pumping gas every once in a while. Nobody's seen hide nor hair of Mitt Romney. That guy will disappear without a trace, which is one of the pieces of evidence that he was just the wrong guy for the job. So Boehner's the guy that's representing the Republican Party now. He's the face of the Republican Party, and what you saw last night is the kind of leadership that we are getting right now from the Republican Party. Just leading, I mean, and not just permitting. I mean, this is John Boehner driving the car, driving the bus into the ditch, driving the car into the abyss. John Boehner's at the wheel. This thing would not have happened without John Boehner. This is John Boehner's doing. If he'd followed the Hastert rule, which Denny Hastert followed, Nancy Pelosi followed it to the letter. There's no way in the world Nancy Pelosi is going to bring a bill to the floor of the House of Representatives when she was Speaker if a majority of the Democrats in the House opposed it. Why would she do that? Why would a Democrat Speaker of the House ever do something so foolish, so inane, so ludicrous, so irrational, so stupendously wrong-headed as to bring to the floor a bill that her own party opposes, but the opposite party supports? I mean, it boggles the mind. It boggles the mind that anyone with an ounce of principled leadership would do something like this. But this, ladies and gentlemen, is what happened last night, and I watched it with my own eyes. I wish that the Florida State Northern Illinois game had been a better game. I might have kept watching that thing, but that thing turned into kind of a blowout, and so I went over and watched all of this stuff happen. So I don't know. This is it's just a phenomenal thing to me. And back to Thomas Sowell's piece about the Republicans. He's talking again about Romney's failed presidency. He says, look, I don't want to pick on Romney because it's not just Romney that's at fault here. I mean, they did this with Dewey in 1948. The Republicans did this with John McCain in 2008. They've done it again with Mitt Romney. They keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, and they expect a different result. What's that? That's the definition of political insanity. This is what Thomas Sowell says. To this day, the Republican establishment still goes for pragmatic moderates who feed pablum to the public instead of treating them like adults. And here's a great paragraph. It is not just Republican presidential candidates who cannot be bothered to articulate a coherent argument instead of ad hoc talking points. Have you yet heard House Speaker John Boehner take the time to spell out why Barack Obama's argument for taxing millionaires and billionaires is wrong? Well, no. You never heard Boehner make an argument about why increasing taxes right now is a bad idea. I believe that's because he cannot articulate a case for that. Now, you and I know, we talk about this almost every day on the program, that raising taxes on job creators means you get less jobs. This is economics 101. You take $620 billion away from the people in America that actually create jobs, that hire people, that invest in companies, that run companies, that expand companies, that operate small businesses. That is $620 billion that they cannot use to increase wages, to expand the business, to hire new people. I mean, this is a no-brainer. I mean, a first grader can figure that out, and yet the Speaker of the House cannot articulate it, apparently doesn't even believe it. Apparently, I have no idea what's going on in John Boehner's head, but I assume in some twisted way he's got himself convinced that this is good for the American economy. You know, and Sowell points out, look, you raise taxes on upper income earners. What do? They're not going to sit for that. They're going to take their money somewhere else. They're going to take it overseas. That's what Gérard Depardieu, I just love speaking French, so I'm going to say that again. Gérard Depardieu. He's the most famous actor in France. He's the richest actor in France. They increased the income tax to 75%. What does Gérard Depardieu do? He goes to Belgium. He moves to Belgium. He's not going to sit there and take that. He's going to take his money someplace where he's not going to get taxed to the gills, and that was Belgium for him. The richest businessmen in France did the same thing, moved to Belgium. And finally there was a kickback, and I guess they've decided to scrap that 75% tax hike. But what happens when you do this, when you raise the income taxes on the job creators? They're not going to sit for that. People are leaving California in droves for the very same reason. They're leaving New York in droves for the same reason, the tax burden. They're not going to sit there and take it. And they're smart enough, and they have resources enough that they can do something about it. Now, you and I, we're stuck. We're not, we're not going to be able to relocate to Costa Rica or New Zealand or Australia or someplace like that. I don't have any money parked in the Cayman Islands or the Bermudas, and neither do most of you. We don't have the resources to do that kind of thing, but these upper income earners do. They don't have to sit there and take it like you and I have to just suck it up and take it. They can do something about it, and they're going to do it. So all this money then goes overseas where it's parked, where it's taxed at lower rates. If they bring it back to the United States, it gets taxed again. Not only does it get taxed overseas, if they bring the profits to the United States, it gets taxed again. So what are they going to do? They're going to keep their money overseas where it cannot strengthen the American economy. I mean, this stuff is just elementary. But apparently we do not have any leaders in the Republican Party that can articulate a case for this. And so we get what happened last night. And don't be fooled, ladies and gentlemen. Don't let them lie to you. 77% of Americans are going to pay higher taxes because of what happened last night. The payroll tax is going back up. So 77% of American households are going to see an increase in their taxes, not just the upper income, but you and me. Next paycheck you get, the first paycheck you get in 2013, you look at it, compare it to your last paycheck in 2012, and you will see a 2% increase in your taxes. So don't be fooled into thinking this was just a soak the rich deal. 77% of the American people are going to see their taxes go up. Number to call if you want to give me your reactions to all this. I'd particularly like to know what you think about John Boehner, whether he ought to keep his spot as Speaker of the House. Drudge has got a poll up today running 85-15 against Boehner being retained as Speaker. 888-589-8840, by the way, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. What do you think about what John Boehner and the Republicans did yesterday? Do you think John Boehner ought to continue as Speaker of the House? I want to hear from you, 888-589-8840. Now, I never agree with Ed Schultz on virtually anything. This is clip 2, Rob. But here is something that Ed Schultz said that I agree with. So we are going to enjoy the wonder of this moment. Ed Schultz and I on the same page. Let's listen.
I mean, if I could just put it this way, the White House has taken the Republicans to the cleaners in negotiation on this. This is a huge win for the White House if they can get the votes on this. And that's why Schumer is coming out saying that there's going to be strong Democratic support here. This is a big win for the Democrats. No question about it. Big win for America. This underscores the vote of November 6th. There's no question about it.
So that's Ed Schultz, and I agree with everything he said here. The White House is taking the Republicans to the cleaners on this. This is a huge win for the White House. This is a big win for the Democrats, no question about it. So, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, Republicans got completely taken on this. They got hosed. They got drilled. They got taken to the cleaners. They got their pockets picked. They got their wallets cleaned. That's what happened last night. 888-589-8840, number to call if you would like to weigh in. And let's see if we can grab a call before we go to the break. Let's go to Bailey in Austin, Texas. Bailey, you're on Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
I think we need to vote 90% of them out. I've been telling people for 6 months that we should not have voted for Romney. If Obama wins, he wins, but it would send a message to the GOP that we want somebody like Ron Paul or Rand Paul, and everybody's saying, oh, you know, I really like Paul Ryan. Well, he's already shown his colors. Why do people continue to vote for these people? Vote them all out.
Well, Bailey, you know, I think what you're saying about Paul Ryan, you know, to me, now, true colors. I mean, I honestly, I tell you, Bailey, maybe you're just more discerning than I am. I was really thinking Paul Ryan was one of us on fiscal issues before this vote last night. But I think basically he just kneecapped himself for 2016. I mean, how can he run credibly as a presidential candidate in 2016 when he voted for a $620 billion tax hike?
But people will continue to vote for him.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, you mentioned Rand Paul, Bailey. You know, Rand Paul was one of, 5 Republican senators that voted against this monstrosity in the Senate. These guys are my heroes. Rand Paul voted against it. Marco Rubio voted against it, and Mike Lee from Utah voted against it. Now, also, Richard Shelby from Alabama, I don't know why he voted against it. Chuck Grassley from Iowa voted against it. He's not really a fiscal conservative. He wanted a farm bill in it, so that's why he voted against it. But Rand Paul, Marco Rubio, Mike Lee, those guys are my heroes over in the Senate. Well, listen, Bailey. Yeah, go ahead.
And they continue to vote in the proper form.
Yes.
You know, and they always have. Rand Paul, Ron Paul, they've always voted that way. And nobody seems to care.
Yeah. All right, Bailey, listen, I appreciate it. You know, and Boehner's going to come up for a vote tomorrow, as I mentioned, whether he's going to come back have another term as speaker or not. And there's some question about whether he's going to be challenged on this. Eric Cantor voted no on this monstrosity. That's unusual because he was second in command in the House. So he's bucking his own leadership. He's bucking the Speaker of the House to vote no on this thing, as did Kevin McCarthy. So they're positioned to challenge Boehner. You know, all it takes is 17 Republicans to say, I'm not going to vote for Boehner, and he cannot become the Speaker of the House. Focal Point AFR Talk, back in 2.